Hello everyone, Carson here, and in today's video I'm going to be explaining to you how Hostinger is so cheap. Now I'll drop a link in the description so you can learn more details about this, compare Hostinger plans, and receive special discounts. Alright, so let's get into the video. Now, in case you're not familiar with Hostinger, it's one of the biggest web hosting companies in the world. It started off in 2004, and it's made a name for itself by providing the cheapest web hosting on the market. Now, Hostinger boasts that it gets around 1,500 new users every single day. And with that many new users and their servers expanding that quickly, it does beg the question, how do they provide these services so cheaply? And that question actually has been going around a lot on the internet. It's a very common question for their very cheap hosting plans, like their incredibly dirt cheap hosting plans and high quality service. I mean, just looking at the Hostinger website, I'm on the homepage right now as you can see. So let's just go hosting, shared web hosting, and then the first plan is around 99 cents a month, which, in case you couldn't tell, that is a bit on the cheaper end for web hosting. And by that I mean it is one of the cheapest web hosting plans, if not the cheapest web hosting plan you can get on the market today. That price is a steal, which leaves a lot of users wondering, how do they provide these services and is it even legit? Because a lot of times when you see a price that cheap, it'll leave you wondering if the service is actually worth it and if the service is actually quality or not. So I'm going to go ahead and explain how Hostinger provides their services at these prices, and I'm also going to tell you if it's worth it, if Hostinger is worth the price they provide it for. Now, before we get into how Hostinger specifically cuts down on their prices, let's go ahead and cover how web companies in general can cut down on their prices, because this is a good thing for any customers, any potential customers of web companies to understand before you're going into that initial purchase of a web hosting plan. Now, the most effective strategy which they use is just by adding a lot of users to a shared server. So shared servers essentially hold multiple users and multiple websites and serve all of those websites at once. So naturally, the more users you have, the slower it's going to be and the less processing power there is for each website. So that is an easy way for any hosting company to cut down on their hosting plan cost. Another way hosting companies can cut down is by limiting bandwidth and storage space. If they limit bandwidth and storage space, because both of those commodities require them to pay money, require them to spend more money on their services, if they cut down on those, then they can charge less. Now, the final two methods they use is limiting customer support and buying cheaper hardware. If they limit customer support, because let's face it, customer support is very expensive, they can provide a cheaper plan, and by limiting hardware, of course, they can provide a cheaper plan as well. They just buy the less expensive hardware, and then it makes it easier for them to provide their service at a cheaper cost. So with that covered, how does Hostinger provide their service at the incredibly cheap price they do? Well, Hostinger essentially offers limited resources for each user. For example, if you do go with a premium, more expensive plan by Hostinger, usually all their services, all their features are unlimited. Unlimited data, unlimited websites, unlimited bandwidth. But when you go for their cheaper plans, they limit all of those features to restrict the amount of data you're going to be taking up on their web server, the amount of storage space, the amount of bandwidth your website is going to be using. Think of it this way, if you're paying 99 cents a month, since they can't afford to have you host google.com on their web server, because that would be an incredible amount of bandwidth, they limit it so you cannot host a very large website on their web server. You can only host small business websites and other types of websites like stores and stuff like that. Now, you'll also only get one FTP account, one MySQL database, and 2 subdomains when you buy one of their cheaper plans. So now the question is it worth it? Is it worth it for you to opt into a Hostinger plan for a very cheap price in order to get that very cheap price, but at the cost of scalability? Well, in my opinion, it highly depends on the website you're running. If I had to take a guess, however, I would say you could get away with running your website on a Hostinger plan with minimal to no issues. Because let's face it, most of us aren't running Google. Most of us are running either small business websites, portfolio websites, small e-commerce stores, stuff like that that really doesn't require a gigantic hosting plan with massive scalability. And if you are running any of the websites I mentioned, or any more small scale websites with not a huge amount of traffic coming toward them, then Hostinger is definitely definitely a company you want to look into. Because aside from the slightly limited features in that department, the slightly limited scalability, Hostinger provides stellar service in every other way. Hostinger is completely optimized if you're going to be using WordPress to design your website. Now, Hostinger is also a very reliable service with over 99.5% uptime, as my research has found. Now, it is very easy to use and very easy to understand how to use Hostinger as well. And another thing worth noting is their more premium plans, which do have more services, more scalability, also come with free domain names. So that's another benefit to Hostinger as well. So overall, I do think Hostinger is definitely worth the price. Despite the fact that you have a slight bit less of scalability, it's very worth it because most small businesses don't even really need the big scalability that larger plans have. You just need a basic plan, a basic simple one website plan, and that's really all you're going to ever need unless you decide to expand, at which point you can just upgrade to one of their premium plans. So just to recap, Hostinger is able to provide a cheap service by limiting some of your features like bandwidth, database size, and amount of websites you can host. By doing this, Hostinger provides one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest, web hosting plan on the market. Overall, when you're deciding if it's worth it or not for you, a good thing to take into consideration is how big your website is going to be, how much traffic you are driving to it, how much storage space your website will require, what are you uploading to it. If you're uploading gigabytes upon gigabytes of videos, then you might need a more advanced premium plan. Otherwise, however, you're just going to want to stick with the 99 cent a month plan or go with one level up and just get the free domain name. Both of those options are completely valid for 99.9% of small businesses, and I would definitely recommend it if you're running a small business or planning to set up your own e-commerce shop. Well, thank you for listening. Now, if you do have any questions for me, just drop them in the comments and I will be sure to respond. Also, just a reminder that I have a link in the description where you can check out all these plans, view more detailed comparisons about them, and receive special discounts. Well, thank you for watching. Till next time, and have a great day.